Hey, Josh Podians, it's your girl G, and I'm back at it after some time, I will admit, with another episode of OMJ, the Oh My Josh podcast and the world's only audio series dedicated to actor Josh Hutcherson and his work. This episode, though, goes a bit beyond our boy to cover a larger topic, fandom conventions. Why conventions? Well, a large part of my listener base includes folks who want to meet Josh, and my take is that a convention will be your ticket to a convo with your fave. So, in preparation and anticipation that Josh will attend more cons, today's episode will serve as a guide for all things convention. As a seasoned con goer, I'll be sharing my top tips for prepping for and attending these events so that when Josh is announced for another one, you'll be ready. I'll start with the basics and then go in more depth so that there's something in this pod for newbies and con aficionados. If you're the latter, feel free to skip ahead to the part of this episode that feels best for you. I'll also sprinkle in stories and examples from my experiences interacting with Josh at the convention known as Dream It Fest in Paris, France. And side note, if you haven't heard it yet, my very first episode is all about this. So, ready to dive in? You're all now VIP guests of the OMJ Con, so sit back and relax, take some notes if it's helpful, and manifest your future memories meeting Josh. First, we'll start from square one for all the con newbies out there, and then we'll take it up a notch and go over my top tips for what to do before and during a convention to maximize your experience. Remember what I said about starting with the basics? I mean very basic, as in, let's talk about what a fandom convention is and what the elements are. And again, if this sounds more boring to you than a movie that's not starring Josh Hutcherson, feel free to skip ahead. A fandom convention is an organized and usually pricey event often scheduled over a weekend period. These happen all over the world and gather together people from different fandoms. I'm talking Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and so on, where superfans are given the chance to see their favorite stars from those fandoms in person. This could mean seeing them from a seat in a theater as they speak on stage and answer questions from fans, or it could mean some up-close and personal time during what's usually referred to as a photo op or auto session. Traditionally, these special interactions are an additional cost, meaning that fans will have to purchase both entry passes to the convention itself, either for one day, the whole weekend, or something in between, and in addition, any photo ops, auto sessions, or other extras that they may want. And yes, it usually is a separate cost for each celebrity you want to meet, unless there's a group photo offered, which usually involves several actors from the same fandom in one photo. My prediction is that if Josh continues to attend conventions, he will most likely spend his time taking individual photos, unless the universe gives us a massive gift and gets the Hunger Games crew back together, or the entire FNAF cast ends up headlining one weekend. There are a couple of other categories of activity that happen at conventions, but it varies by event and country. For example, when I met Josh at Dream It Fest in France, they sold both a one-on-one opportunity with their celebrity guests, where you quite literally sat in a closet with that guest for 3 minutes, plus a moderator, and you could talk about whatever you wanted, within reason, of course. We'll get into my one-on-ones with Josh and one-on-ones in general later. Dream It Fest also sold a group hang where the celebrity guests gathered with a small group of fans, say about 30 people, for 30 minutes. While that's what Dream It Fest did, keep in mind other cons could do it differently. One event might offer a guest hang that's 15 minutes with 10 people or an hour with 20 people. Not all guests will participate in each category either, so you may, for instance, be given a chance to take a photo with Josh, but not sign up for a one-on-one, even if other celebrities are offering them. Lastly, keep in mind that spots for these are extremely limited and tickets go fast. Not to stress you out, but remember one of the times you were anxiously refreshing your computer for important concert tickets? Getting these can kind of be like that. Bottom line, here's the thing about these two categories. I have yet to see them appear at a convention in the US. It's possible that is a thing, but I can't speak to that yet. However, I've observed that outside of the US, such as in my example with Dream It Fest in France, the one-on-one and group hang options are much more common. I also observed Dream It Fest offer virtual options for the one-on-one sessions in some cases. In the US, it's totally normal for neither to be offered, so your only chance at an interaction would be a few moments in a photo op, whatever time you can snack at the auto table, or maybe even a less personal but still meaningful moment while asking a question while they speak in a panel. And that brings me to the last element of cons, the panels. Remember a bit ago when I mentioned how you might see your fave from on stage from an audience seat? That's usually what these are. They typically happen in a big auditorium or room and are scheduled at a certain time announced in advance. Congoers tend to line up in advance for these, especially if they are first come, first serve with seating, which is traditionally how it works. And then, when the time comes, a panel of celebrities, hence the name, will take the stage to answer questions. Now, where these questions come from can vary. Sometimes the interviewer will be the only one to ask them. Sometimes the con gathers questions from an online form in advance, and then you can listen to see if your question was picked. And sometimes you can ask in person. For that option, there's usually a microphone stand set up in the aisle of the attendee seats, and fans have the chance to line up in front of it for a shot at asking their question. The logistics of all this can vary as well. Sometimes the room is open and you can line up for your question pretty early before the panel starts. Just keep in mind you'd potentially be giving up a seat in the auditorium unless you have someone to hold it for you. Other times, the con will instruct all audience members when the best time is to line up, and you must wait for that go-ahead. Or they could steer away from this completely and have a host walk around with a mic, or you raise your hand and they come to you. It's hard to know exactly what the con will have in advance. Yes, we can make assumptions based on our past experiences, but know that everything I'm sharing in this podcast is subject to change. I know, not the most fun thing to hear for all my planners out there, but I have a solution. If you have plans to go to a con and it will be your first time attending that particular con, try joining the official Facebook group for that event. Sometimes folks that work for the cons themselves will answer there, or you'll get an idea from what's traditionally happened in the past from a fellow attendee who's been to the con. That could, of course, include info that, you guessed it, is subject to change. So the best thing you can do is reach out to the con directly. The official website for each con should list their social media and a possible email or two to reach out to. So if you have any questions on how they structure things, or really anything at all about their con, I'd encourage you to go right to the source. I can't promise you that they'll give you the most robust answer or guarantee how quickly they'll reply, but this is the safest bet to having the heads up that you might want. In addition to the panels, you could also be an audience member during an opening or closing ceremony if your con offers these. In my experience, these are more commonly incorporated into cons outside of the US. For example, the Dream It Fest in Paris convention did both opening and closing ceremonies, where they welcome everyone to the con, share information on how the day would go, and bring out some of the celebrity guests who would give a quick hello. You likely won't find an extra charge for these ceremonies, but other con experiences may cost you. How much do all of these things cost? It depends on the celebrity and the convention. Traditionally, entry to the panels isn't an additional cost and is usually included in your ticket, but I have seen some cons sell special seating for those at an upcharge. You also might find that your VIP pass, if you choose to get one, allows you access to certain rows in the panel room or early entry. While photo ops, aka a formal photo usually taken against a background with professional lighting and camera equipment, is usually the most expensive add-on, aside from one-on-ones or the group hangs, autographs can also get up there in price. Sometimes personalized autographs can also cost more, and they also might charge different prices depending on what you want signed. For example, the convention may charge more for Josh to sign a PETA Funko Pop than a headshot print that they have available at the convention, but not always. This can also apply to what they write on the autograph. You could get a choice of including your name or a quote or something else that's appropriate, of course, of your choice. The con might also charge extra for this personalization, or they might not. Sometimes you can find this info in advance on the con's website where you purchase your photos in advance. And yes, it traditionally is possible to purchase them in person at the con if they're still available. Additionally, not all cons will have the same prints available. Most will have many to choose from, often featuring popular stills from the celebs' most classic roles, but some might not. Some may charge extra for a print or a specific size print, and some may give them out as part of your autograph purchase. If you're planning on purchasing a print there and not bringing something for the celeb to sign, I'd suggest bringing a clear plastic covering or anything suitable to protect your special souvenir. While pricing for these coverings may vary, you also may find these sold at the conventions themselves if you forget to bring your own or find that the one that you brought isn't the right fit for your memento. Normally, the celebs have Sharpies at the ready at their auto stations, but if there is a particular Sharpie that you want them to use, feel free to bring that along too. Just keep in mind that everything, even down to what marker they use, is at the discretion of the celebrity and the con, so it's a good idea to have a backup plan, or understand that while you likely will get what you want, you also might not. In conclusion, what you are hopefully understanding from all my blabbering is that even your autograph experience or what item you end up cherishing later varies by con and celebrity guest. So what does this mean for you? Plan for everything, which we will talk about shortly here. Be respectful, be flexible, and keep positive attitude. This might sound preachy, but again, we'll get into the why behind my words shortly here. Before we get into that, let's recap. We've talked about what a con is, what goes on there, and a bit of the nitty-gritty, but let's close a few loose ends before we flip this pod into hard mode. Other than all those celebrity experiences, cons also offer a few other things to keep you occupied. One of those things is admittedly a huge temptation for me at almost any con, and that's shopping. Yes, you likely dropped a small fortune on entry tickets and autographs and so on, but now you have the option to spend even more money on things like rare collectibles, fandom clothes, art, and more. The items that you can find shopping there are usually catered to the fandoms being celebrated at the convention. For example, at Dream It Fest in Paris, you could find a good amount of Hunger Game items sold since Josh was one of the guests. And side note, I got a super special PETA keychain at Dream It Fest that I cherish to this day. And who sells them? Usually small businesses. A lot of the items that you'll find are handmade by artists and are things that you can't find anywhere else. Think of it this way. It's like all of your favorite Etsy shops in one place. Now, what sold, how many vendors there are, and how things are priced, you know exactly what I'm going to say by now. It varies by con. If this sounds good to you, though, I suggest planning some shopping time into your con game plan. And if shopping isn't your thing, there might be something else for you. I've seen cons offer tattoos, as in tattoo sessions right there on the show floor, or even big displays of cool things where instead of trying to sell you something, a vendor might have something to show off to you. An example of this would be my friend Tyler's collection of Josh's screen-worn items that he displayed at Dream It Fest in France. He was definitely one of the most unique vendors. And again, this is a cool extra that you could find at a con, traditionally with no additional payment needed. The final extra I'll talk about here is one of my favorite things, cosplay. You likely know what it is, but just in case you don't, cosplay involves wearing a costume or outfit themed after a fictional character. It's extremely common for this to be the main attire folks wear to cons, although you will find folks in regular street clothes as well. How people cosplay depends on the person. Some folks spend hours sewing and crafting the costumes themselves, and others might opt for a pre-made costume or piece things together themselves from thrift stores or online. No matter how long you spend on your cosplay or how much it costs you, it's sure to be a fun part of the con experience. And since it's such a big part of the experience, some conventions, like MegaCon in Orlando, Florida, offer things like the Cosplay Red Carpet, sessions where con goers gather to walk the carpet and show off their outfits. If there isn't such a thing available, most cons will also have a few places set up with backgrounds to get a few pics snapped solo or with friends and family. You also might want to consider gathering in a cosplay meetup, which is where fans all from the same fandom, say FNAF, meet together at a designated time and take a group photo. You also just might find cosplay celebrities or influencers, aka the people who are famous for their insane talent at creating and sporting cosplay, attend conventions and offer meet and greets just like other celebs. Because actors are not the only ones that you can get an autograph from at cons. Some events might offer comic book artists, YouTubers, or other categories of guests. Phew, okay, so maybe a few more loose ends to tie than I originally thought, but with all of those out of the way, let's move on to part 2 of this podcast, where I will go into my top tips for before and during your con experience. It feels fitting to cover the before we discuss the during, so let's start at the top. Let's say you find out Josh has been announced as a guest at a convention. You can just show up, right? Well, I wouldn't suggest it. But of course, how much or how little you prepare for an event is up to you. But since this is my podcast and I'm sharing my expertise here, you're getting the extra prep version, of course. So, at minimum, you're going to need to choose your entry for the con, whether it's a single day, weekend pass, a lower tier VIP, or an upper tier VIP. You want to secure these tickets first. Not all cons sell out, but some do, and some may sell out of the VIP categories quickly. You'll also want to secure the photo ops, autograph sessions, and if offered, the one-on-one chats or group sessions before attending the event. Again, on occasion, some of these things can be purchased at the event, but they will be subject to availability. If the last two things I shared were too obvious for you, I am so sorry, but I am not done with that. You'll also want to find a game plan for all the logistical things for your con experience, like hotel or other accommodations and flights or other transportation. Even if you're attending something local to you, and the two things I just mentioned aren't relevant to you, you'll still want to consider a few things like parking or deciding on what time to call your rideshare or taxi. Usually, conventions will post their operating hours and their schedules on their websites or their apps. Some cons may offer early entry for some ticket types, and some might not. So, how early do you get there? That is up to you, but getting there something like a few hours early can have its benefits. Being first in the doors could mean lining up quicker for an opening ceremony and getting a better spot, if the con has one, or even getting in line for your first autograph session of the day if those lines are open. It's possible that not everything will be ready for you to line up for, but the staff could let you know what the earliest option is so that if you want to be among the first for that thing, you can be. Usually, all of that is pre-scheduled. For instance, there will be a time that lists Josh's autograph session for the morning, and you'll know exactly what time it begins and ends. My strat is usually to be among the first few folks so that I'm able to prepare for the next thing on my list, like lining up for a panel or meeting a different celebrity. Because, yes, depending on how many folks you're there to meet, you may have to do more planning to ensure that your sessions don't overlap. This is why I would suggest that everyone plans out their own schedule beforehand. You could go old school and write it down, or my personal fave, start a new note in your phone. Compare what you purchased, so all of those photo ops and things, to the schedule of the convention posted, and make a note when you, as in you personally, need to be at each thing. It can be really tricky to do this in the moment. It's way better to save all that stress and plan it out in advance. Also, be sure to recheck your game plan even the day of or during the convention because, yes, things could change. Sometimes celebrity guests are running a little late or panels go late and the time shift. This is why I'd say it's important to be following the con that you're attending on as many social media platforms as you can and turn on notifications until the end of the event. It's common for cons to use social media to announce schedule changes or even guest changes because, yes, it is possible for celebrities to cancel their appearance at the con due to illness, other obligations, or any other reason. When that happens, it can be super disappointing, but usually any extras that you have bought for that particular celebrity that canceled will be refunded. However, what is usually not refunded is your entry to the con itself. So if you only wanted to meet one person and that person cancels, even if you no longer want to attend the event period, it's most likely that you're stuck with those tickets. And that's hella sad. So let's switch over to something that's not hella sad and that's more fun. In fact, my favorite part of conventions and my favorite part of the prep. Here are the common things people do in the months leading up to their convention. Remember me talking about the cosplay thing? I feel like this is where people usually spend the most time in creative prep land. If you're ordering things for your cosplay online, choose to hire someone to bring your vision to life, or see yourself getting crafty with some fabric, you'll want to give yourself plenty of time. How much time depends on your cosplay vision, and just like with anything else in life, it's a good idea to give yourself wiggle room for the unexpected. That said, I usually start cosplay preparations 4 to 6 months before my event. I'm so glad I did this for Dream It Fest in Paris, where I met Josh, because my Juice cosplay took a few tries. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I wore 2 cosplays when I met Josh, both from his show Future Man, which I find to be pretty underrated. I sported Josh's janitor uniform one day and the Juice onesie the next day. Working on the onesie cosplay was the real time sucker. It took hours to individually place logos on a design that a company then printed for me, but I had to order it a few different times to have it look as I wanted. And then I had to make seamstress appointments to go and get it resized. Partnering with a local seamstress worked for me, but some folks may choose to work with people who are experts in cosplay. For this option, you commission them to create what you want, but keep in mind that this is a lengthy process. It's not uncommon for it to take the creator months to prepare and ship your cosplay to you, and that's why giving them plenty of advance notice is essential. You can expect to drop hundreds, if not thousands, if you go this route, but you'll end up with a really professional cosplay. As cheesy as it sounds, the most important thing is to show up to the con in whatever makes you feel good and is the most you. For me, getting to show Josh my enthusiasm for his underappreciated show was important to me and represented my creativity and passion. If you'd rather wear a floral dress you feel confident in, your favorite fandom t-shirt, or something else, go for it. Cosplay is optional after all. Aside from prepping your wardrobe, you also might want to prep your essentials for the day. Cons can be busy and unfortunately sometimes smelly places. It can be a lot of bodies in one place, and not only do I not want to contribute to the problem, but I also don't want to be grossing out my favorite stars either. So before any con, I gather up all my essentials. For me, this includes a hygiene bag with deodorant, my makeup, body spray or perfume, a hairbrush, a toothbrush, toothpaste, and mints. There will, of course, be bathrooms where you can refresh throughout the day, and trust me, the little refreshes make a big difference in how you feel. It can also be a good idea to have things like hand sanitizer and wet wipes, a Tide pen, or other portable stain buster in case something gets on your cosplay. And since you need your phone for much of the convention to check the schedule, I'd suggest bringing a couple of power banks to keep your battery out of the danger zone. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, don't forget the plastic coverings for your autographs or printed photo ops and Sharpies, although, again, remember that they may sell these plastic coverings and most celebs will have their own Sharpies there. On that note, be sure to pack anything that you want your fave to sign if that's an option for you. You could consider placing a reusable bag in your con bag so that you can transfer those items after they get signed or toss in any purchases you make with vendors. Speaking of those vendors, most will accept card or paying through your phone, but it is usually recommended to bring cash too. On occasion, some vendors will operate cash only, or the con will ask you to pay in cash for same-day photo ops or autograph purchases. Lastly, you'll also want to have some of those dollar bills for food, but be prepared that con food is usually very expensive. You can expect to find stadium prices at most cons. I'm talking $25 for some chicken nuggies and fries. Getting food at the con itself can be more convenient and sometimes feels like the only option if no outside food is allowed. If outside food is allowed, packing meals or snacks could be part of your con prep. You could also research what affordable restaurant options may be close to the con that you're attending and make detours to those part of your game plan. And of course, you'll need something to wash down those $25 chicken nuggies with. So I'd also suggest bringing an empty water bottle, as you can commonly find drinking fountains or other places to refill it. This may sound like a lot, but don't forget my disclaimer that this is just what my extra little heart likes to do. You might want to pack some of these things or none of these things, but no matter what, be sure to take note of what not to bring. Most cons will have a list of prohibited items on their website, and it may even impact your cosplay if you're bringing props. So take a moment to check and ensure that your entire wardrobe falls within guidelines. That con website is also where you can find out if it's permitted for you to bring gifts for your celebrity faves. Here's the thing about gifts. Just like everything else I'm talking about, this is optional, but super common. Many fans choose to bring their favorite a little token of appreciation. But not every con allows this gesture. Traditionally, as with the case with Dream It Fest in Paris, the only time gifts could be given was at the autograph tables. And that's why I brought Josh 40, yes, 40, friendship bracelets to the auto sessions. Friendship bracelets customized for the celeb or fandom are becoming more mainstream. I know I'm not the only one who gave Josh bracelets that day, but what's so cool about this option is that they're usually easy, low cost, fun to make, and it's absolutely possible for everyone's bracelets to look unique. Personally, I also like to make them for fellow fans as a way to make friends and socialize. and for con staff members as a way to say thank you. Fellow bracelet makers may also want to trade with you, and you also might find fans giving out other small trinkets like keychains or stickers. I tend to bring Josh stickers with me and love to hear about all the places they end up post-con. So that sums up the physical prep, but would you believe there's more? Oh yes, but this time we're talking about the mental prep. All you'll need for this part is that brain of yours and a pen and paper or your phone. Either works. What do you put on that blank page? Questions for your favorite celebs. As many questions as you can think of, like you're a little kid bombarding your mom with a million curious questions. Just don't actually bombard the celebrity. Bombard the paper. Why? Well, unless you are really great at thinking on the fly, it can be stressful to think of a question or thing to say when you're moments away from a personal connect with your fave. And by the way, good for you if you are that type of wing it person, because clearly I'm not and script my podcast. And so it was completely on brand for me to create a notes tab in my phone and slowly collect all the questions for Josh long before I flew to Paris. I also took some time to reflect on what I wanted to share with him in our 3-minute one-on-ones. I feel that I was really able to maximize this time because I went in with a plan. No, I didn't map out everything I was going to say, and yes, I got nervous and forgot some things, but I can't stress enough how helpful this mental prep was. If you know what you want to ask or share beforehand, you're more likely to have a super personalized experience at the auto table or feel more confident when getting on the mic at a panel. And when it comes to panels, be sure to practice good con etiquette and go into your question as soon as possible and refrain from providing a lot of personal commentary or stories beforehand. Traditionally, cons prefer for you to save those moments for the auto table or one-on-ones and like to see questions asked concisely so that as many fans as possible have a chance to speak to their hero. Also, don't be surprised if your question is screened beforehand to ensure it's appropriate, and be prepared to pivot if you're asked to. As long as you keep things respectful, you likely will be good to go. That note on respect brings us to the last portion of today's pod, and that's some tips for during the event itself. These events can be a lot to run and are often staffed by volunteers. They may, not out of their own free will, tell you things that you don't like, such as the line is closing for a bit, or no, you can't take this shortcut. I'm probably preaching to the choir here because my listeners tend to be the most remarkably kind and respectful people ever, but I would urge everyone to be as patient and kind with the staff as you can be. Not only is this the right thing to do, but you'll avoid getting kicked out of the event that you spent all that time preparing for, and you might end up with some insight that you didn't have without respectful connects with the staff members. Respect is mutual, right? I find that the rules of life absolutely apply here too. The more respectful I am, the more willing staff members are to answer questions or provide helpful tips. And yes, they likely will do this anyway, as this is their job, but I personally like building that network of support while at cons. It's good to familiarize yourself with who to go to for help, and if you're attending multiple days of a convention, you may see those same staff members daily. All of the things that cons provide are awesome, but the people are really what makes it worth it. You know how some people feel that their trips to Disney parks are magical because of the cast members, aka the people working there, and not the rides? I feel like this applies to cons too. I have had so many great memories having fun chats with staff while I waited in line, and these are moments I treasure along with my time meeting Josh. So yes, those team members are there to help you, but you can help yourself too. On the day of your event, I would suggest making your phone lock screen that personal schedule that you made for easy access. You could also bring a piece of paper with it written or printed if that's more of your style. And yes, not surprisingly, I usually do both. To wrap us up, even though I do both and frequently prep with the intensity that I described in this pod, it doesn't mean that you have to. I'd encourage you to take what you want from this episode and leave the rest. No matter what you take from today, I hope that you learned something or feel more energized about the possibility of meeting Josh at one of these events. Be sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram under @ohmyjoshpod, and keep an eye on my website, ohmygoshhutcherson.com, because y'all know the second Josh is announced to appear somewhere, I'll be posting about it. Not to worry though, because you'll hear from me before then. I'll return to the Josh-centered content in our next episode. And in the meantime, feel free to drop your questions on cons or anything else in the comments below. Until next time, peace and Josh parody.